The Jerall Mountains. Rugged, tall, inhospitable. Situated to the north of Cyrodiil, they function as a natural border between the heart of the Empire and Skyrim. Known for being steep with only but a few passable routes, for many traversing the Jeralls is as precarious as it is necessary, and that's only considering the geographical dangers. Other threats entail seemingly anti-gravity bears, raging territorial mountain lions, and of course antisocial people such as bandits and brigands. But while up here facing the odds and elements, there is one threat that may seem much more terrifying, and at the very least is much more mysterious. So join me today as we explore the horror of Dive Rock. Chances are good you'll most naturally happen upon this little story when seeking out acrobatics training. Your acrobatics skill can easily be leveled simply by jumping around like a lunatic everywhere, but if you wanted to, say, pay a trainer, your best bet would be to seek out the Bosmer, Ganredal and Cheydinhal.
People? I teach them advanced acrobatics. Up and jump. Dogs? I teach them to bite people.
Or indeed Sarava in Leowin.
Did I mention I hate dogs?
Now, if we ignore the fact the world of acrobatics seems fraught with dog politics, once your acrobatic skill reaches 70, should you speak with either character about further training, they will point us in the right direction.
I can't teach you anything you don't already know. Aerin could, though. She's a brilliant acrobat. Last I heard, she'd set up camp in the mountains somewhere in the northeast corner of the province. You should look for her there. Search the mountains in the northeast of Cyrodiil for Aerin's camp. Aerin can teach you all that you need to know.
And so we'll be sent out to the mountains in the northeast of Cyrodiil to track down Aerin's camp. It's not, all things considered, a tricky place to find, situated to the north and slightly east of Cheydinhal, but upon our arrival things will not necessarily go entirely smoothly. This is because Aerin is nowhere to be seen, and in her stead we find a Nord man named Torbjörn.
Hello there. Welcome to Aerin's camp.
Of course, we can ask him about Aerin and the training.
You came all this way for training from Aerin? You must be really disappointed that she's not here. Well, I haven't ever seen her, so I guess you're out of luck there. But if you want, I could train you. I'm pretty skilled myself. And I could always use the money.
So as luck would have it, Torbjörn is also a master acrobatics trainer, but it would certainly seem Aerin is missing and has been for a while because Torbjörn doesn't seem to know her. He knows it's her camp originally, but he's never seen her, never met her. So the question at hand is, what became of Aerin? Did she simply move along, perhaps into a different province, and is therefore unable to be found by us? Or did some horrific fate befall her not far from her camp in the shadow of Dive Rock? That aside, there is a gruesome discovery we can make, but a stone's throw from Aerin's camp. Should we exit the camp heading north and then quickly swing around a boulder to the right, we will find a corpse. The corpse of Andre Labouche. Now, without sounding too medically knowledgeable, his physical well-being has certainly seen better days, and it's only natural to question how he found himself dead here. Well, in his possession we can find a letter that may very well shed some light on the topic, and it will read as follows. Dearest Father, I know it's always been your dream to travel to Cyrodiil, to climb the lofty mountains and reach the peak known as Dive Rock, and gaze down at the full beauty of the Imperial Province, but I beseech you, be careful. We've both heard the tales of the creature known as the horror of Dive Rock, but in truth, what concerns me most is your lack of grace. Oh Father, you know it pains me to say it, but you're clumsy. You always have been. You can't walk up a flight of stairs without crashing down to the bottom at least once. How can you possibly hope to scale a mountain range? Please, Father, I beg of you, call off your expedition. I fear the worst. Your loving daughter, Fiona. To Fiona's credit, it would appear her concerns for her father's well-being undertaking such an expedition were quite well-founded. But what fate ultimately befell Labouche here? Did he fall from Dive Rock? Or did the horror mentioned in the letter get the best of him? Maybe there's no way of knowing for sure, but we know he wanted to go up Dive Rock to catch an uninterrupted view of the Imperial Province, and now his broken body lays onwards from that point beneath Dive Rock's sheer drop. Whatever happened up there, it would appear he fell. Maybe he slipped and fell because he's notoriously clumsy, or maybe something genuinely startling caused him to lose his balance, and here's where we find him. To find out more, we'll need to venture further up the mountain. There are two ways to go about it for the sake of preserving the storytelling. The route I recommend is heading north and then attacking the mountain from the north. I see plenty of people saying it's a reasonably tricky climb, but in reality it's not, especially if your acrobatic skill is quite high, as is typically the case when you find yourself in this area investigating the horror of Dive Rock. Of course, as you go up, it's natural to wonder if the beast known as the Horror of Dive Rock could be responsible for Aerin's disappearance, but there's only one way, of course, to hopefully find the answers. Furthermore, on the way up, why not catch a glimpse of the throat of the world, made visible in Oblivion Remastered? Anyway, as night falls and we eventually find our way to the summit, we'll catch a glimpse of a camp, situated along the ridge before the drop back down to Aerin's camp. It consists of a nice warm cozy fire, 2 beds, and a tent. But there's nobody here to be seen. If the fire still roaring is any indication, whoever was here left fairly recently. As of right now, it's unclear where they went, but a journal found by the fire, simply titled Agnar's Journal, will yield the answers we seek. The following is what it says. Entry 1. When I took on the role of Chieftain of Thirsk, when I accepted the beautiful Svenja Snowsong as my advisor and then my bride, I never imagined how quickly my life would change. I went to the Isle of Solstheim for some much-needed rest and found it in the mead-soaked halls of Thirsk. But when I met Svenja, my sweet Svenja, I became entangled in an epic story, the likes of which I had only read about in fables and children's tales. Svenja told me of the fateful night when a hideous creature known as the Udafreiter attacked the mead hall, killing rampantly, leaving her the only survivor. The creature was slain by a champion, and Thirsk had its new chieftain, but it wasn't long before they moved on to some new challenge, some new adventure. And that's where I entered the tale. Svenja Snowsong, with her ice blue eyes and flaxen hair, gained my love. Soon after, I became her husband, and the Mead Hall's new chieftain. In truth, I had never been happier, but Svenja, my dear wife, existed in quiet misery, constantly haunted by the memory of Udafreiter and the damage it had wrought on the Mead Hall and the people she had loved. Night after night, my dear woke up screaming, her face etched in horror, and a single word issuing from her lips. Udafreiter. I feared for my wife's sanity and happiness, but it was she who found a solution to her problem. As a warrior, she told me she must confront her fear. She must defeat it. The Udafreiter was dead, yes, but where did it come from? Was it unique? Would more of the creatures come and wreak havoc once again? Would I, her loving husband, be killed? And so she corresponded with explorers and researchers all across Tamriel until she found the answer she had been looking for. The Udafreiter was in fact not unique, but the offspring of an ancient Udafreiter matron. In order to end the nightmares, in order to prevent any more destruction, we would need to hunt down and kill the Udafreiter matron, no matter where or how. Entry 2. By Izmir. We've been searching and searching and searching some more, but finally it came. The lucky break we had been hoping for. The creature has been spotted by a shepherd in the remote highlands of Skyrim. Entry 3. We found its trail and tracked it for days, crossing the border into the Imperial Province. Here in the frigid mountains, we met with a local hunter who tried to warn us away from the area, citing an old legend about a deadly creature known as the Horror of Dive Rock, a monster credited with the slaying of over a dozen people and just as much cattle. Could this creature be the very Udafreiter matron we seek? Perhaps, unlike its child on Solstheim, the matron moves from location to location, and it's this mobility that has thus far prevented its killing or capture. Entry 4. We have made camp at Dive Rock, reportedly the highest natural observation point in all of Cyrodiil. From here, we can see for miles, so we'll keep watch, night and day. We're close, so very close. Svenja and I can feel it in our very bones. Indeed, Svenja has always been particularly in tune with such things, and is convinced the Udafrikta matron is close. Entry 5. Svenja has grown tired of my constant writing, but this journal will serve as a record of our travels and defeat against the Udafrikta. She's staring at me angrily, impatiently, right now as I write, but this entry is too important. Finally, on this third day of watching, we've spotted it. The Udafrikta matron. It is unlike anything we have ever lain eyes on. A giant troll-like beast that seems to waver and shimmer in the cold, like the feral form of winter itself. We're off now to trudge down the mountain, weapons in hand, to give the horror of Dive Rock its due. Entry 6. Failure and Horror. We engaged the monster with all the force we could muster, but it was a travesty beyond comprehension. Svenja, my beautiful Svenja, my dear wife, was killed instantly, consumed by the beast nearly whole. And though it shames me now to write these words, I could think of nothing more at the time than escape. I took flight, returning here to our camp on Dive Rock to collect my thoughts and nerve. I haven't much time. After this quick entry, I will march out and meet the Udafrikta matron once more. It is sure to track me back to this campsite anyway, so our confrontation is inevitable. Can I even hope to defeat this monstrosity? One thing is certain. Svenja and I came hastily, unprepared, my steel axe useless, my dear wife's frostworm bow completely ineffective, and swallowed whole still in Svenja's hand. The beast appears to be a creature of the cold and is likely nearly completely resistant to it. I would attack with fire if I had any on hand, but there is no time. No time to travel to a mage's guild and procure an enchanted blade, or hire the services of a sorcerer. My steel axe will have to do, and so I return to battle now, and hope beyond hope that I may slay the wretched monster that has brought so much grief to so many people. And if not, I take comfort in knowing I will soon rejoin my beautiful bride in the gilded halls of Sovngarde. If someone is reading this hastily written journal, I am likely dead, and pray to Izmir that you have had more luck against the creature than I. Agnar the Unwavering, Chieftain of Thirsk. Now all of this is a nod back to the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind Blood Moon that sees us venture to the Isle of Solstheim where we live these events. There's an attack on Thirsk and the sole survivor is Svenja Snowsong, and the perpetrator of this massacre is a creature known as the Udafrikta, a vicious troll-like creature that brandishes a Nord's severed leg as a weapon. Upon defeating the Udafrikta, we return to Thirsk and become the chieftain, and that explains the events detailed in Agnar's journal, and it would seem the following chief and Svenja Snowsong have ventured to the Jerall Mountains in Cyrodiil to face the Udafrikta matron. The journal documents Svenja's defeat, and the fact that Agnar the Unwavering is nowhere to be seen suggests that he too has been felled. Meaning chances are better than good. It's now our turn to venture down the southern slope of the mountain and face this abomination. And sure enough, we'll just about be able to see it before we engage with it. From range, the monster appears troll-like, albeit transparent, and emitting light. She prowls the area where we can see, presumably, Agnar the Unwavering's corpse. And, well, let's just say, I don't suspect she's going to offer us a brew. Overcoming the beast is sure to be a daunting task, but if the hero of Kvatch is not up to it, then who is? To face the Udafrikta matron, it's worth noting that she has resistance to frost damage, so using frost weapons is reasonably ill-advised. However, like all trolls, she has a susceptibility to fire damage, but nonetheless you'll still need to be careful, for her attacks are incredibly vicious and deal a solid amount of damage. However, with a bit of grit and determination, the horror of Dive Rock can be put to the sword, and should we search her carcass, we'll be greeted by Svenja's bow, clothes, and bones. It would seem then that Agnar's journal was not exaggerating. Svenja truly was consumed, along with her clothes and weapon. As for Agnar, it would seem the Udafrikta matron was saving him for later, with his stiff, lifeless body laying in the open. But at least he was this monster's final victim. As for the supposed master acrobatics trainer Aerin, there's no sign of her. Did she too run afoul of the Udafreiter matron, the horror of Dive Rock, or has she simply moved on? That, unfortunately, is a mystery we aren't equipped to get to the bottom of. There's no evidence the Udafreiter matron got her, however she is kind of gone without a trace, only leaving behind her encampment now occupied by Torben. So I suppose all we can do is speculate. Do you reckon she cracked on, or did the horror of Dive Rock get her? Either way, we know the horror's final victim, and while we may not have successfully saved his hide, or that of his wife, we can take solace in the fact the Udafreiter matron is no more. But are there more of these grotesque horrors out there? Well, like I said, we can encounter one in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. However, there is another in the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim during the Dark Brotherhood questline, or at the very least there's a unique troll named Udafreiter. But are these beings of relation? Are they actually trolls at all? Or is that just an approximation used by the games to depict them? There's no real clarity there, but the only logic is they're a form of troll, albeit much stronger and far deadlier. But the fact that we can encounter up to 3 of these across 3 games may very well imply there are in fact more. And maybe, if the Elder Scrolls 6 releases in any year that begins with the number 2, which as the years fly by feels less and less like a given, we might encounter yet another of these horrific beasts again. But that brings us cozily to the end of today's short video, investigating the fairly well-known horror of Dive Rock. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends, all that wonderful stuff. It would of course be massively appreciated, but only do it if you want to. But look, with a shred of luck, I hope to be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. But until next time, please, take care, and goodbye.